The following program may be pre-recorded.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story. This is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Adam Wettrick. I'm filling in for Greg Bakun tonight, and thank you so very much for joining me. Tonight, we are going to be talking with our special guest tonight. She is Jennifer Lee. She's out of northeastern Utah and is an evidential psychic medium, remote viewer, a paranormal investigator who does residential and business clearings. Jennifer does cold case missing persons reviews and is a psychic certified death doula. We now invite you to join us and Jennifer for tonight's program. Jennifer, thank you so very much for joining us here on GhostBox Radio.
You're very welcome, Adam. Thank you for having me this evening.
So right out of the gate, because when I read your intro, I had no clue what this is. What exactly is a death doula and a certified death doula?
So a death doula really is about being an advocate for those dying. It's about helping them to honor the process of the death of the physical body. So we have doulas, right, that bring life in. So a death doula just really helps with that transition on the way out. And we do that in many different ways. Some of that is working with those that are in the transition process. And obviously this is people that, are terminal or dying of natural causes, but they know that it's coming, right? So it's about what do they want that to look like for them? What do they want to do with the time that's left? What do they want to leave? Are all of their affairs in order? So it's about, sometimes it's listening to their stories and it's physically writing their stories for them. Sometimes it's writing letters to their loved ones, as they're dictating that. It's writing that. It's keeping all of this together. Sometimes it's working on a scrapbook. It's finding old pictures. A lot of it really is listening. Those that are in that transition, they want to talk about it. Their loved ones, they don't always want to talk about it. They're very hard conversations to have. So it's about holding space for the person that's in transition and for their families. It's just about being that person that can have those conversations, that can make sure the practical things are being taken care of. And it's really just about being that ear. It's being that ear for the person that's in transition. So many things that they want to talk about, that it's literally beautiful conversations happen in that space when they feel safe to have them, right? And like they're not hurting somebody's feelings or making somebody feel really bad. They're hard conversations to have when your loved one is passing away. Yeah.
And when not only you're talking to the loved ones, but talking to the individual who is going to be passing.
Right.
And being a psychic medium as well, there's got to be just an unbelievable connection between you and the individual you're working with that probably they would have never experienced to begin with. And so, is that a way to kind of ease them?
There really is. And so, we have a lot of questions. We have a lot of questions about what happens after the death of the physical body. Now, none of us really know. We don't know. I don't have all the answers. I have the answers that I have through my experience with spirit. That's what I can tell them. But I can also, it's very beautiful. One of my favorite parts about it, and I know that this sounds very strange, but it is actually sitting vigil at the very end of this life, because very beautiful things happen in that space. I can start to feel which one of their loved ones are in the room, who's coming to help them transition. I can relay that to families, and very beautiful conversations happen within that space. There's usually always a period of time where we feel like the person that is passing is unresponsive and not listening to us. This is often where some of those conversations with the loved ones take place. They realize this is my last chance. So they start having these conversations with their loved one, feeling like they're not listening or not responding. I can be that voice for them. They can actually tell me memories and tell me things that I relay to the family. And so those conversations can happen in those last moments. Now, obviously, if I've been working with this client for a while, I try to facilitate those conversations before that time, because that's part of what being a death doula is about, right? Is
Right.
getting those things moving. But in sitting vigil, and a lot of times I'm not called in until it's that point.
Oh,
So
okay.
in sitting vigil, and that can be done remotely too, as well, by the way. A lot of just beautiful things happen in that moment. And I think that it's very, very important that somebody is there, to hold space for that person. Well, for everybody in the room, the loved ones and the person that is passing, and just be there. And like I said, I can put a twist on it, right? Because I am a psychic medium. So I'm able to read the energy. I'm able to it's a hard thing to explain.
I get, yeah.
But I feel like you kind of understand where I'm going with that.
And when the individual is close to passing over and they are getting their guides, their loved ones who are crossing over to help them cross over, in your mind's eye, are you seeing these individuals come through? Are you just feeling like a familiar energy coming into the room to help guide the folks over?
So it just kind of depends. I would say both. Sometimes I'm just feeling it. Sometimes I'm seeing it. And what's interesting is I always know when that moment has come. I always know when they have actually passed, because I feel it. It's a feeling. And I know, like, seconds before, they call it or anyone else knows. I know when I just know. I'll tell you an interesting story about that. There was, I was called to sit vigil with someone, and I felt into it, and I was like, it's not going to be, I knew the time, which was weird. And I said the time, I think it was like 10:16 or something. Mm-hmm. But it actually, she didn't pass that night. It was 10:16 the next morning. So when she hadn't passed that night, I went to the hospital, and I went to go into the room. I kept looking at the clock because I knew I only needed to be there for a short amount of time. And so I looked at the clock, and I had about 5 minutes to go, and I walked into the room, and it was definitely 10:16. So it's just so interesting how that happens. Like, they didn't need me there just sitting for hours and hours and hours. They just needed me there in that moment. And that's just something I instinctively know. Sometimes I will sit for hours.
And when you're sitting there, and if there are family members around, and what I'm trying to get is, what is the most memorable, obviously not going into details, but what's probably the most memorable moment you have kind of had sitting there with loved ones and being, so-and-so is here to help take your mom, your dad, whomever, over to the other side? You ever had that moment where the entire room kind of felt it, like the presence of another parent or relative?
Yeah, you absolutely can. And that's the other thing that's beautiful, is that everybody in that room can feel it. Everybody is in, that space. So I would say, for memorable ones, there was actually, as I was sitting there, I felt a young man come through, and I mentioned that this young man was here to take his, to help his mother transition. And I heard the audible gasp, because I have no prior knowledge that, that the brother has passed, that she had lost a son. And so from there, the son was talking about things. He was talking about things to deliver to his sisters and to his brothers, messages. And that really, when that evidential stuff comes in, it really validates and says, oh my God, yes, her son is here to take her.
I was going to say, I'm sure at some point you have gotten a message given to the relatives that only the family would know.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And is that when they're like, oh God, it is time? And then that's when all the emotion hits? Or is that where your job comes in and now everyone's calm, everyone's relaxed, and everything can pass on without a hiccup, if you will?
Yes. I will tell you that it always feels very calm. It always feels very calm. It's not necessarily, panic and crying and all of this, because like I said, this is something where we know that this is going to happen. And so my job as a death doula is to prepare the person in transition as well as the family. And so when that moment comes, especially if I'm sitting there, it's a very calm moment. It's a very beautiful moment. And those evidential messages, they give such a peace to the family because they understand. They can physically feel it. They can physically, sometimes see it. Like, okay, this person was here when mom passed, or these people were here. Oftentimes family can feel it. Family knows.
I was going to ask,
they also just need that validation, right?
Yeah. Is that the moment where it's like, when you know someone and you know they're around you, you understand their presence, their energy, their vibe?
Yes.
Or like phantom smells, does that end up being a big one? There's someone's perfume, someone's cologne, someone's cigar smoke, if you will.
Yes. Yeah, that's very common. And that's very common, though. That's very common towards the end. That's not just when we're sitting vigil, but actually that's just very calm. It's very common, period. But it's actually in those weeks leading up to it, very common.
Really? Even the weeks leading up?
Yes. And what is also very common is for the person that is passing to start talking about and seeing spirit. And the family often asks, who are they talking to? What is happening? Are they really conversing with these people? And so as a medium, I feel like it's very comforting for them, for me to come into that space and be able to say, absolutely they are. And here's some more information about the person that they're conversing with. Do you understand who this is? And then they understand.
All right. And this kind of leads me to a question that has kind of boggled my mind for several years. So long ago, I had a relative who she was very much near death's door. And when she finally came out of her coma, what she had mentioned was she kept having dreams of her deceased mother and father at a train station with pictures of the past in a bag, and just keep asking her to come and join them sitting at the train station seat. Would that have been a moment where they're just like, you're not ready yet? Or was this my family member denying death?
I believe that we have exit points.
Oh,
I believe that we can choose. You what?
We are so on the same wavelength, because I kind of thought that too when my relative had told me. It's just like, yeah, you just wasn't ready to roll. Okay.
Yeah. I believe that was an exit point they chose not to take that point in time.
Right on. Okay, that answers actually something I had kind of wondered, because I had a weird theory about that for years and years and years since that event had taken place.
That was along those lines?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's when we're ready, we're ready. But I feel we have those options along the way. Just really quick, I've got quite a few people from my group watching, so I just wanted to say hello to them. I can see them in the comments. So hello, Bridget. Looks like Amber's there, Jenny's there, Joanne's there. I see you guys. We're just in this really cool conversation. But I did want to acknowledge that I see you there. Joanne says she loved working in palliative care.
really?
For the presence of loved ones coming. Yes, you can feel it, right, Joanne? You understand that.
When you feel the presence of loved ones come in, now obviously you're not related to them. You don't, know the people individually for years. When they do start coming in, does it feel like the room gets full, or does it just feel nicer?
You feel the energy in the room for sure.
Okay, so you will feel
yes, you will feel it does become full. And I'm not the only person being a medium that can feel it. Other people in the room can feel it as well. It does become just that, full. And it kind of depends, it's calm. There is a little bit of sadness to it. Of course, we would expect that. Yes, Joanne, nicer and a warmth. There is just a feeling that comes into the room, and it almost hugs you. It just kind of wraps you. And I always just kind of say everything is okay. We are here. It's like that energy just hugs everybody in there for that time.
That is beyond fascinating. And yeah, when I was reading your bio and looked up what a death doula was, it's like, we have got to talk about this, because I have so many questions, and you've pretty much answered them all here in the first segment. And we are pretty much wrapping up the first segment here. So we are going to be taking a break. When we come back, we do have Jennifer Lee, and we're going to be talking more about her paranormal investigations. We're going to definitely be talking more about death doula, because this is something that absolutely intrigues me. So we will be taking a break, and we will be coming right back here. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950.
If you own a holistic or metaphysical business and are looking to expand, then you need to be listed on metamorphosisconnections.com. It's a network where you can grow with like-minded practitioners and reach new clients. Metamorphosisconnections.com is an online directory you need to list yourself and your business. Our platform makes it easy for you to create listings of your products and services, and you can also choose to list your classes, events, and so much more. Metamorphosisconnections.com helps you create weekly and monthly promotional ads targeted towards your potential clients and promotes them for you via social media and newsletter. There are clients searching for your specialty right now. Let us help them find you. Start your listing today so you can share your own unique gifts and talents by finding the level of membership that best fits your needs. Let us help you reach your clients that are searching for what you do. Visit metamorphosisconnections.com and sign up today.
It's an absolute must for any true foodie. Vinaigrette at 50th and Xerxes in South Minneapolis offers premium oils and vinegars for the most discriminating of tastes. This is Sarah Piepenberg, owner of Vinaigrette. We bottle on-site, there's no guesswork, and you get to taste test each and every oil and vinegar we offer. Our direct relationship with the growers ensures an uncompromised level of satisfaction. When you need to know you're cooking with the finest ingredients, first contact the independently owned Vinaigrette, 50th and Xerxes in South Minneapolis. Online at vinaigrettemn.com.
This is Elizabeth, the host of Exploring Sovereignty with Elizabeth. There are many pathways to sovereignty, and each week I'll speak with inspiring guests who share their own journey towards becoming free, curious, and consciously aware. On this week's episode, we're in studio with Dr. Ty from Whole Family Chiropractic on how your kids and family deserve to feel awesome. Join the conversation and explore your sovereignty every Sunday at 11 or wherever you get your podcasts.
Have you ever wanted to see a real Masonic lodge or visit a beautiful hotel from the 1800s? GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun, Charvinity bring you a weekend of paranormal investigations in Rush City, Minnesota. starting Friday, September 22nd at the historic Grand House and continuing into Saturday, September 23rd at the Jasper Masonic Lodge. We have a lot of options for you to join in on this event. Go to charvinity.com/event-list for full details.
And welcome back to GhostBox Radio. I am Adam Wettrick, setting in tonight for Greg Bakun. Please make sure to join us tomorrow night here on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun, as Greg will be live from Crypticon, Minnesota. The con itself runs Friday, September the 15th through Sunday, September 17th. Weekend and day passes are still available, and there are a lot of celebrities that will be there as well. Check out the website, www.crypticonminneapolis.com, for all the details for Crypticon. Once again, we are being joined tonight by Jennifer Lee. Jennifer is an evidential psychic medium, remote viewer, a paranormal investigator, and does residential and business clearings, not cleanings. She's not a cleaning service. Sorry about that. All of a sudden, you're going to be getting calls to go clean out,
Oh, trust me, though. Clearing and cleaning, they're very much one and the same.
And I imagine they kind of would be, because, they're clearing an area and cleaning an area, because clearing the spirits that don't need to be there anymore, they need to move on. I get that. But the cleaning aspect would obviously be something, I don't know, a little bit more elemental, almost demonic, if you will. I could definitely see that for cleaning.
Okay, so can I address? There's a couple of questions I would like to address.
Absolutely.
Marcy was asking this. This is an interesting question. What about someone who is brain dead? Do they see family that are passed? So again, I don't know everything, but from my experience, communicating with spirit and working with spirit, I do feel like the soul leaves the body before the moment of the physical death of the body. This soul is already gone. So the answer would be yes, of course they are connecting with their soul family, because we connect soul to soul. Okay, so even if the brain is dead, the soul is still making those connections. That's how we recognize them. It's a soul to soul connection. So absolutely, if the soul is still in the body, they are. And if the soul is not in the body, they are. They're definitely connecting with that family on the other side. So I hope that helps to answer the question without knowing like a lot of the specifics about the situation. I know that's kind of broad, but that's the best way that I know how to really answer that.
Yeah, and I was going to kind of ask something along those same lines. Thank you so very much for kind of stealing one of my questions. But when you do have someone in like a medically induced coma who isn't going to be able to make it, obviously they're not responsive to the physical realm. But, that's one of the things I was going to ask. Would you still be able to pick up if, they had their thoughts coming out, or notice when their souls left? And obviously you just answered that one, because that was my next question.
Yeah.
So another thing I was wondering, when it comes to being a psychic medium and also being a death doula, does it also, you kind of become a psychiatrist at the same time for those family members who they know it's coming, but when it's happening?
I would not say a psychiatrist at all. I am not a licensed therapist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a doctor. And I'm very, very clear about that. I become more of a sounding board. I become more of a space for them. If they want to cry, or if they want to come and tell me how bad it sucks, or if they want to ask me a question about the afterlife, I'm more of a very neutral sounding board.
Okay, so that's was one of the things. It's like, well,
yes.
Does that mean next you have to start, booking families to come in for like a grieving session or things like that? So basically, the death doula is there at the very end, but then any grieving aspect has to be taken on from a different angle with a different professional.
Yes.
All right.
Now I do some grief support and grief coaching, but I will be honest with you, most people that are in the really, really deep stages of grief, I will send them somewhere else to go get help somewhere else, just because it's not my specialty. Like, I can offer some things, but if there's a lot to really work through, again, I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not a doctor. And so I choose to send them to somebody that is more specialized in that area, because I want them to get the help that they need.
And when you do, when everything is over and the soul has passed on, the soul has left the body, what's the next step that you would take? Is there like a cleansing of the room, anything to make sure that they crossed over, or does that go on to somewhere else if the family feels that the soul did not cross?
Unpopular opinion, the soul always crosses.
Okay.
It just does. Now, we can choose to come back, right? But we are not stuck here ever. Our soul has the free will that we talk about, the free will that we have, that is our soul's free will. Okay. And so our soul cannot get stuck. Our soul automatically crosses. So the answer to that is no, I don't do any of that. Now, again, it's an unpopular opinion. There are a lot of evidential mediums that believe along the same lines, and there are people that don't. So I'm not really here to dispute that, but my opinion is, my experience is that the soul always crosses over.
Okay, because
it's natural. It's our natural state of being. When our body's gone, we're just there.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of under the impression of, if there was the unfortunate, events of like a small child and them not knowing where to go, if you were helping guide them, or, if that was what the spirits were that you felt coming in from other loved ones. And I would imagine, though, too, that some of the loved ones that come in may not always be related. It could be like best friends type visitors,
absolutely.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
So like anybody who really had, that's the neatest thing.
Animals.
Really?
Pets. Yes. Pets will come through.
So like Fluffy can show up and be like, Fluffy's sitting here at the end of your bed.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And it's beautiful. And that right there is, that's what the family needs. That's what they're like, okay. That's so peaceful for them, to know that and to understand that. Yes, I've had animals come through, and then when I talk about the animal and what it looks like, and it's certain behaviors and where it's sitting, they're like, oh my God, that was so-and-so's dog for so many years. That's so beautiful that the dog is here. So yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, Adam.
Oh, no, go right ahead.
Address. There's a couple of things. So I wanted to talk to Marcy for a minute, if that's okay. She says, thank you so very much. It was my mom. So the first thing that I want to tell you about that, Marcy, is I just want to assure you, and we were talking earlier about this, that nobody, I always say this, like, nobody dies alone. Even if there is nobody physical in the room with them, there's always somebody in spirit that was there to come through with them. Okay. And even so your mother being unresponsive in those times, she could still hear. Okay. She could hear everything, not physically through these ears, but again, it's that soul to soul communication. So know whatever that you had to say to her was definitely heard. And so I hope that helps you some. And then you're talking about your best friend's ashes in your home. Should I spread them somewhere, or is it okay? It's absolutely okay. Okay. Because the ashes, we got to look at it like it was a vehicle. Okay. It was a vehicle that brought her soul to earth for a little bit. She no longer needs it. So the ashes really, and what happens after, is really for you. What kind of closure do you need? What do you feel like you would want to do with those? I feel like she was a very free spirit. She feels very just light and laughing a lot and like a very free spirit to me. And so if you feel like you should spread them somewhere, it's absolutely okay with her. And I promise you that she will be there with you when you do that. So I hope that helps to answer the question. But for her, it's absolutely okay, because now it's about you, and it's about what makes you feel, what's going to make you feel better, and what's going to make you heal and help you through this. Okay? So hopefully that helps. And I also wanted to talk to Cynthia. She said her mom is elderly, and this is great info to prep me for her time of passing. So I know you didn't ask for anything, but this really is for anybody. If there's somebody in your life that you know that their time is coming to pass, one of the best gifts that you can give them, honestly, is to be there and to allow them to have the hard conversations, and not to say, I don't want to talk about that. That's too hard. That breaks my heart. Like, I don't want to talk about it. You got to be open to it. You got to have the conversations.
So when those conversations do take place, and the individual who unfortunately is passing, they're receiving all these messages. I would imagine as a psychic medium, you could almost kind of feel the reception of those if you do have that connection with that individual.
Yes, absolutely.
And when that happens, I would imagine that the family is probably at their most peaceful at that moment, when you're like, your mom understands, here's a message, especially right after the event takes place, be like, your mom says ...
Yes.
And do you get that like right away sometimes, where the individual who has passed will send you a message to give to the family? Or do some not speak back? Do they need time to kind of get some energy back to say thank you, or anything like that? Or is it almost instantaneous if there is a message that's going to come through?
You know, it just kind of depends. It really just depends. It can be instant. Here's the thing. Our soul hasn't changed any. It's the vessel it was in has transitioned, but the soul is the same. So the soul can communicate instantly. There's no waiting period. There's no anything. Spirit can communicate with us right away. The thing is, sometimes they will not. Okay. And the reason for that isn't because they can't. It's because it's not time for those grieving. It's not time for the family really to hear yet. They're in a state where, look, Spirit's super intelligent. They know when it's time to come through. Sometimes that's right away. Sometimes it is, it can be days, it can be weeks. So it just depends.
That answers a lot for me too, because my mother died about 6 years ago, a little less than 6 years ago. And I've always been under the, okay, well, she'll give me some sort of sign or anything. And for the longest time, nothing. And then probably about a year or so ago, she finally started entering my dreams.
Oh, I love that.
And, so at that point, it was about 5 years after she had passed. So that's why I was kind of wondering, it's like, does the soul need time to build energy? But, with you being like, no, it's when they need to say something. And yeah, about that time is when she needed to say something.
Yeah, so that's one thing. And the other thing is that sometimes we don't notice the signs. Sometimes we are really deep into our grief and we don't notice them, because signs from Spirit they're actually very simplistic sometimes. They're very subtle. They are very rarely these huge, huge occurrences. There's something very subtle. And so that's why we tend to either miss them or dismiss them as, well, I don't really know. I don't really know. I don't really know. I don't really know. Start knowing, and you'll start seeing more signs.
So like that little bit of wisp that you see every now and again, it's like, that had to have been a car passing. part of the window is open, so it must have been that. It probably wasn't then.
Just say, hey, I see you, thanks. Just acknowledge. That's all you have to do. And it sounds crazy, and you'll probably sound crazy saying it. You'll be like, oh, I'm insane. I just talked. But that's where it starts coming. That's where it starts coming in. That's where we start noticing more. You know, we're expecting sometimes, I think, just this, we're expecting our loved one to manifest right in front of us, and we saw them, right?
Yeah, I think everybody wants that full body apparition.
Or we heard them with our physical ears. It's not necessarily that way. Maybe we hear them through the lyrics in a song that they loved, or that just really resonates. That's the way that they'll send signs. One of the ways, you know, one of the very subtle ways. And so we have to be more in tune with that as well. Wow. Because we miss a lot when we're not.
You know, and that makes, God, you know, I didn't even think about any of that. Yeah, you're right. There's so many things that we take for granted living our normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill, go to the store, go to work, grab the kids, take the kid to school, you know, that I'm sure the signs are out there everywhere, and we're just all wrapped up in ourselves to not even notice that they're here saying hi or here to lend a hand.
That's exactly it. And when you start paying attention, when you start, you know, kind of going within yourself, you start to pay attention to things a little bit more, well, a lot more. And that's when you'll start to see, you know, and you'll start to notice. And I also feel like it's important to acknowledge, if I was saying hello to you every day and you ignored me, I'd just quit saying hello.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like even a simple thank you. You know, I see you. I saw that. If I find a penny and you know, in a spot that I knew it wasn't there a few minutes ago, and I pick it up, and I just always say thank you. I put it in my pocket.
Yeah, all those little signs. Yeah.
Yeah, and those synchronicities that happen. Synchronicities are insane. And they are always a sign or guidance. One synchronicity will lead to another, to another, to another. And then pretty soon you're like, oh my God, I got it. I finally understand what all this was about.
So it's just pay attention, and you can put the puzzle together. That is, yeah.
And don't overthink it. You know, people overthink it. I saw, you know, they got a sign. They understand it's a sign, but I think it was from my mom. Is it? Look, the first person you thought of, if you think it's from your mom, it's from your mom. Stop. You've got to stop questioning yourself. You've got to, because that is your sign, but you have to accept it. You have to say thank you, and you have to accept it.
This is a wonderful conversation. For those of you just joining us, we are talking to Jennifer Lee. We will be joining her once again, but unfortunately we have to take another break, as much as I hate to break up this conversation. But we will be back here in just a moment with Jennifer Lee. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950.
Reach your highest level of consciousness and well-being with metamorphosisconnections.com. Metamorphosisconnections.com is an online directory of the best holistic and metaphysical practitioners to help you make your most informed choices. You can search metamorphosisconnections.com for classes, events, wellness and life coaches, plus metaphysical products and shops. You can also search for a wide array of healers from all modalities, including EFT, sound healing, energy healing, light therapy, ancestral healing, shamanic healing, reflexology, past life regressions, hypnotherapy, yoga, and more. And if you're not sure where to start, the search feature on metamorphosisconnections.com is tailored to help both those who know what they are looking for and those who are just starting. Come explore the possibilities for your higher self by visiting metamorphosisconnections.com. Their experienced practitioners can guide both beginners and those that are already on their spiritual journey. That's metamorphosisconnection.com, your link to direct you on your spiritual transformation.
Connections Radio Show is all about tapping into our hardwired hunger to connect. We examine meaningful connections to ourselves, our community, and the world around us. By opening the door to innovative insights by a wide variety of interesting guests, we'll make the connections to something bigger than ourselves. Join me, Lori Fitz, your host of Connections Radio Show, and together we'll make the connections. Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Have you ever wanted to see a real Masonic lodge or visit a beautiful hotel from the 1800s? GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun, Charvinity, bring you a weekend of paranormal investigations in Rush City, Minnesota. Starting Friday, September 22nd at the historic Grand House and continuing into Saturday, September 23rd at the Jasper Masonic Lodge, we have a lot of options for you to join in on this event. Go to charvinity.com/event-list for full details.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Showers and storms possible tonight with an overnight low of 61. Then another chance of rain and storms on Friday with a high of 76. Nightingale is your cozy, comfortable neighborhood bar and restaurant at 26th and Lindale in Minneapolis. Come in for the famous Nightingale burger or the ginger tamari chicken wings. View their menu or place a takeout order at nightingalempls.com.
And welcome back to GhostBox Radio. I'm Adam Wettrick, sitting in for Greg Bakun. Next week, GhostBox Radio and Greg Bakun will be doing a special 3-night event talking about the Enfield Demon House in Enfield, Connecticut. This house was built in 1771 and has documented some of the worst demonic activity. Now all of that is gone. But there is a new set of information about what has caused it and how it deeply affects others that have been there. This special will run Monday through Wednesday next week. Although Greg's interview with Jay Yapple will be new on Monday, we are going to play an excerpt here that Greg did with him in 2016 to show how serious this house is. So we're going to go ahead and play this clip real quick from 2016.
Feels like there's something in the house, and he says, listen, he says, there is no such thing as ghosts or demons. He says, that's all Hollywood. People try to get people scared up. And he says, you know, because I've been doing this for so many years, he says, Jay, he goes, I never came across anything evil or crazy. He says, but he says, I'll be more than happy to do a house blessing. So Greg, he went around, he did my whole side. I said, well, you still got to go now on my renter side. So he went there, and, you know, he was impressed. He's like, I love this smell of fresh cut wood. He goes, it's like new construction. So he went around the house, and upstairs in a big room, he says to me, and sometimes it's almost kind of comical when you look back, you know. He says, see, there's nothing here. He goes, I don't feel nothing. I don't see nothing. And I said, well, Father, I said, you got one more place to go. I said, and that's up in the attic on the renter side. And he's like, no problem. So he opens up the door. He takes 3 steps up, and he freezes, Greg. And he looks up, and you could see the smile went off his face. He just stood there. And he just kept looking up the stairs. He saw something that terrified him right out of his very foundation. He just kept staring and staring. He backed down the stairs 3 times, you know, about 3-4 steps. And I'm behind him, like, you know, what's wrong? And he's looking. He says, you know what? He says, I'm just going to bless the stairwell, Jay. And he says, he backed out of the stairwell. He never even turned his back, turned around. He backed down the stairwell, closed the door, locked it, walked right down the stairs, went right outside to the door and the porch, and he turned around and he said, ignore it, it will go away. And he took off.
That's a preview of what's coming up next week here on GhostBox Radio. We'll be doing a 3-part special Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday on the Enfield Demon House in Enfield, Connecticut. However, tonight we are speaking with Jennifer Lee, an evidential psychic medium, remote viewer, a paranormal investigator who does residential and business clearings. Jennifer does cold case missing persons review and is a psychic certified death doula. And we have been concentrating on the death doula portion here tonight. We've only got just about 10 minutes left to go into tonight's show talking about the death doula. And there is one more thing I really want to hit up with you being a death doula and to go along with the rest of everything that you do with the cold case missing persons, has that moment ever ended up becoming a death doula moment when working on any of these cases?
I'm not sure that I understand your question.
Okay, so if you're working on one of your cold cases or missing persons cases,
Okay.
and the missing person is unfortunately a John Doe, Jane Doe in a
Okay.
hospital at that point, has that ever happened? And did that then all of a sudden become, this is who this person is, they're about to pass, we need to contact their family, and then it becomes a death doula moment where you're getting closure for the family as Jane Doe or John Doe has been identified in a hospital?
No, that has never happened. That has never happened to me. I don't necessarily work the cases. I review the cases. And I've had to learn to do that because you can spend a lot of time and a lot of energy, and I'm very, very particular also about the cases that I will work on, that I will take, that I will review. And the reason for that is I could work a really long time and I could have some information, but if there's nowhere to take that, what good have we done? What do we do with that information? Even the family, what do they do with that if they don't have an officer or an investigator, somebody working with them that will, first of all, take the information that I give seriously, right, and do something with it? So I'm very particular about the cases. I can spend tons of energy and tons of time, but if there's nowhere or anyone to give that information to, because I don't solve the cases. I can't. I'm not a forensic person. I'm not I don't have permission to go and do a ground search or look here or look there. All I can do is give these clues from a different perspective, and then somebody else has to act upon them. So I'm not generally there through the whole case, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I wasn't sure because every now and again for missing persons cases, you do hear where they have brought in a psychic, the family will bring it in to work in with the police or whatever the authorities are that are on that case. I wasn't sure if you had been in that situation or not, and if the two would have crossed over, and because then that's a Law and Order episode.
Yeah, I have been in that situation. I have been brought in, but no, it's never ended that way because my part is, I've had to learn to do this because boy, when I first started, I wanted to work that and know every single detail. So it takes some discipline, and it's very hard just to say, okay, this is what I have. There you go. Do your thing. You know where I'm at if you need me at a later date. And sometimes I have to let it go. I don't even know what's happened.
Oh, wow. And from that aspect, in that case, you just got to close that out of your mind then and move that on to the next, because I would imagine being a psychic medium that if you can't get a connection, then there's probably none to be had.
Well, that's another thing. So I will not work a missing persons case. I won't even attempt to make a connection. That person is missing, and I will not be the person to say to the family, I just made a connection. Nope, they've passed. That is not my place. And I will not do that. As a psychic medium, I can tell you, I'll tell you this. And this is going to sound really weird, and it's probably going to sound very egotistical, but I'm a very good medium. But I am not 100%. 100% of the time, nobody is. And the last thing that I would do is tell somebody that has a missing family member, oh, guess what? I just spoke to them in the spirit world. No, I will not go there. I will not. What if it's one of those times where I'm wrong? And what if I just picked up the energy of her and mistook that for a connection?
Yeah, because then the family's devastated, the search stops, but that person's still out there because you may have gotten the energy because they may have been there a week ago and they're still resonating.
Yes. And so that's a very real thing. I do what I call energy tracing. I find an energy trail when somebody is missing. I can follow. Okay, they were here, right? Does that mean that they're still there? No, but this is, where I see the energy trail, and it will actually make like a map. And so it's clues. But I don't work unless I know the person is actually passed. I will not try to make that connection.
Understood. Yeah, I was just kind of wondering if those, like I said, had ever crossed paths. And there's one more thing I want to get into about the crossing over and the death doula, because we've only got about 4 minutes left. God, this needs to be like 2 hours.
It's gone by very fast.
It has, and I haven't even reached the top of the iceberg, because this death doula thing and the last moments of life to me is so fascinating, and I think that's human nature.
We'll do it again. We'll do a part 2.
We will definitely have to. But the one thing I definitely want to ask before we have to part ways tonight: auras. Are you one of the individuals who can see the aura around an individual? And when the moment of passing comes, does that aura disappear, or is that aura is what representing the soul and is what's crossing over?
So yes and yes, I can. But when they cross, so sometimes when they cross over, it's very different, right? Sometimes I see it in my mind's eye. I will see the aura. Sometimes I can physically see it. And sometimes it's just a feeling of lifting. I'm not entirely sure how to explain that, but it would be like if you had a weight, an energy weight on your shoulders, and suddenly it lifted. You can actually feel the room gets a little bit lighter. It just lifts. So you can see both. Or you can see or feel. It can be either or it can be both, or it can be nothing.
Wow. Because that brings me back, my friend of mine years and years ago, when his mom, his dad, his little brother, a few other family members were at his grandfather's house. His grandfather wanted to pass it home. His grandfather was like 102 years old, the kind of guy who would smoke a pack of cigarettes a day, drink a bottle of whiskey a day, eat nothing but back fat and white bread.
Right. And outlive most of us.
Right. Lives to be 102. But my buddy Dave was sitting in the living room when his grandfather passed. And Dave saw this. None of the other people in his family saw it, but he's like, I swear I saw a white light, and then the whole house just felt lighter.
Yeah, he did. Absolutely, he did.
And I've been telling him that for years, and he won't believe me.
Well,
you saw your grandfather pass.
He did.
You had good enough connection with him or the energy in the room to see this happen. And my buddy is like, no, that's not. It must have been something else. Like, dude,
No, that's what it was. So it's just like the signs, right? We want to dismiss them instead of embrace them. Be like, no, that's what I saw.
I'm calling Dave tomorrow and be like, I will flat out tell you right now, go to Spotify, listen to this podcast. And unfortunately, we are wrapping up. God, there's so much more I want to talk about with this, but we can't because we're terrestrial radio. But I do want to say thank you so very much, Jennifer, for joining us tonight.
You're welcome.
This has been such a fascinating topic. Yeah, I know it said 1 question readings, but you know what? We got into this whole death doula thing I had never heard of until today. And this is a fascinating topic. I cannot wait to have you back on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, for tuning in and listening. Do we have just a minute? Just like 1 second.
Yeah.
If you want to follow me, I do have a Facebook group. It's Jennifer Lee Psychic Medium. So that's, I just wanted to throw that out there. You come join me there.
Jennifer, again, thank you so very much for joining us tonight on GhostBox Radio.
Thank you so much, Adam. Have a good night.
You too. And this is going to wrap up GhostBox Radio for this week. I am Adam Wettrick. I am filling in tonight for Greg Bakun. Be sure to join us tomorrow night, as Greg will be back in the captain's chair, sorta. He is going to be out at Crypticon, Minnesota. You can join us tomorrow night as he will be going live from Crypticon. Crypticon does run from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You can grab your tickets and passes at CrypticonMinneapolis.com. Go say hi to Greg and all the other paranormal celebrities that you enjoy watching and listening to. This has been GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Have a wonderful night.
It's Brad Friedman, your friendly investigative blogger, journalist, and host of the Bradcast on AM 950, KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
AP News, I'm Jackie Quinn. The New York fraud trial against Donald Trump and his company could be delayed after a last-minute legal challenge against the
Even if your house doesn't look
950.
If you own holistic
It's an absolute must for
.com and sign up today.
This is Elizabeth, the
Have you ever wanted to see a real
Reach your You can also search for a wide array of healers from all modalities, including EFT, hypnotherapy, yoga, and more. And if you're not sure where to start, the search feature on metamorphosisconnections.com. They're experienced practitioners.
Connections radio show.
Have you ever wanted to see
76 Nightingale showers and storms?
For full details,
With a look at
And welcome back to GhostBox Radio. I'm Adam Wetrick, sitting in for Greg Bakun. Next week, GhostBox. Listening to. This has been GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Have a wonderful night.
It's